Hello, and once again, a warm welcome from the studios of BRTK in Lefkosha. My name is John Ghazi, and you are now watching A Cup of Conversation. Now, it's amazing the power of the internet and the power of social media, and we have, if you already listen to our radio station here at BRTK, Barrack International Radio, a Facebook page, and you're free to post on the page. And recently, we had a posting from Mr. Robin Melhuish, and Robin posted about supporting indie authors. So I decided to find out more about Robin and his work, and lo and behold, he's my guest today on the programme. So we're going to learn a lot about Robin and his literary works and what he wants to do to help promote independent authors. But first of all, Robin, welcome to the programme.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming down to BRTK on such a hot day in May, and it's great to have you here. Now, before we talk about your own work, let's find out more about you. We only just met literally about, an hour before this interview began, half an hour. And I know that my colleague Engin Dervishar interviewed you a couple of years back for his program Vox Pop. And, but thanks to internet, you came up to the forefront of my imagination. I thought, well, let's meet Robin and see what he has to say, support your cause. Now, Robin, very interestingly, I thought that you were British, but you actually, you're half English, half German, is that right?
Correct.
So which half is English, which half is German?
My father's English, my mother was German.
Right, but where were you born?
I was born in England.
In England?
Yes.
And when you, what part of England were you born in?
North London.
You're a London boy?
Yep.
Like me?
Harrow.
Harrow. I'm a South Londoner. And you said to me just before the interview that you actually hadn't been living in the UK for about 30 years.
That's correct.
So tell us a bit about your life. What were you doing in the UK up to 30 years ago?
I was in the international sales and marketing arena, working for a company supplying car components to the motor industry. I was the European sales and marketing manager and moved over with that company to Germany to take over their subsidiary in Germany, dealing with Volkswagen, Mercedes, Opel, people like that, and the big hypermarkets there. My background in the UK before I went there, I was working for B&Q and Woolworths, after having done a degree in chemistry. So,
a bit like me then, so a scientist but working in a completely different field.
yeah.
Like me, I'm a biologist but working on the media, in the media. So it depends on how, where your life takes you, the direction you're swaying in. But as you just said to me earlier on, back in 1985, you actually left for Germany.
Yes.
Was that to your hometown, your mother's hometown?
No, I went back to Cologne. The managing director of the subsidiary was caught doing, I think I call it cordon bleu bookkeeping, and had to be pensioned off quickly. And I was set in there as a German speaker to hold the fort until they found a replacement. It took them 10 years, by which time I'd put the thing to rights. And I left them to set up my own business.
The normal question that we ask anybody who is, coming over to the charity from abroad is, what brought you to Northern Cyprus?
I had a love affair with Cyprus since the 70s. I think the first time I came to Cyprus was 1972. My next door neighbour was a Cypriot in London. And she said, oh, you've got to come and see this island, it's fantastic. And I came here and fell in love with it. 2 years later, I came again. We had this, I'm not sure whether it's dangerous to say, but the intervention.
Yes, the peace intervention.
The intervention.
As we like to call it. So we're talking about the summer of 94.
Summer of
74.
74, yeah. And we got evacuated from Akrotiri after some gunfire in Limassol. Exciting times, and I never actually got to see the north of the island, which everybody said was the great part, the beautiful part. And work and career and everything got in the way until 2005 when I said, well, I'm looking for a place to retire. I've always wanted to retire in the sun, and I was looking on the internet at all the real estate places. France too expensive, Spain too dangerous, Italy too expensive, and I came across North Cyprus. And an old classmate of mine from school actually lived here. And she said, well, come out and have a look, which I did, and was delighted with the place. Within a week, I'd signed up and been happy ever since.
Nice, nice story there. Nice, tale to how you arrived here. But it's amazing that you were even here back in the 70s, and that. Sometimes it seems to me that people who come here years prior to actually moving out here, there's always Cyprus in the back of their mind in a way. That love affair begins when on the first holiday or the second holiday, and whether they move out immediately or years later, they sort of end up here on the island one way or another. So it's nice to hear that you're happy living in North Cyprus. Where are you based now in the Tiara? Karşıyaka. Nice, a lovely area.
Yeah.
And I believe that you have a Turkish Cypriot partner.
That's correct.
A big hello to Yasemin. That's her name, yes?
Yasmin, yes.
Yasmin. And now this is very unusual. Because I asked you about your language, whether you had any Turkish, but you don't, you said. And I said, well, obviously Yasmin has English, but she's actually half German as well.
That's correct.
Unbelievable. So at home you speak both English and German then?
Yes.
Well, is that what we call kismet in a way?
I don't know. Karma, kismet, whatever you like.
Whatever you like. But anyway, I wish you all the best
Thank you.
together with Yasmin. Now, let's get to the matter in hand, because, after all that talk about, what you were doing and the preamble about sales and all the wonderful companies that you've worked for, we're going to be talking about literature.
Yes.
And you've actually had a book out, which was, and I looked at the date of release, it's actually, last year, 2015.
Yes.
This came out, and your first book is called The Quiet Way, Terrorist Attack in Central London, Bigger Than the Twin Towers. And let me just read what the back cover says. No one could foresee the consequences of a railway tanker blowing up in Germany in 1946, killing over 200 people, especially 64 years later. In 2010, over 600 miles away in Chester, England, a lab assistant is kidnapped, leaving DCI Alan Hanks and his team with a dilemma of conflicting threats. They race against time to find a connection and prevent Britain's biggest peacetime disaster. Sounds like a great thriller there, a great story. Now, before we talk about the book in more detail, what brought you to the world of literature? I mean, did you always have obviously living in North Cyprus, you have more time on your hands, people can fulfill their dreams. Did you always have a book within you that you wanted to write?
I started writing a book back in 1984. And it was one of these things that I'd write a couple of pages, put it in the drawer, write a couple of pages, put it in the drawer, come back to it, take it out of the drawer, read it and go, oh my God, no, edit it, rewrite it, put it back in the drawer. And it took 10 years to get a first draft out. It then took another 10 years of editing and getting the chronology right to get it into any shape whatsoever. And then I reread it and I thought, no, you can do better than this. And I actually had the opportunity to go to a creative writing course in Germany, which helped tremendously in honing my appreciation of what writing's all about. And I went back and looked at this first story that I wrote, and I thought, well, yeah, okay, I can do a lot better now. And I did, and that was this one that's now on the table, April Fool's Day, which is kind of autobiographical in a way. It takes on all my pet themes, hobbies, and interests in history of Europe, and mixes it up with some kind of conspiracy theories, some kind of extrapolation of what might have happened, what might be, based on an anomaly initially of going to a castle that I'd never heard of, that happened to be the home of the SS, the indoctrination center of Himmler's Waffen-SS, where I saw a newspaper article of the British occupying this on the 28th of April in 1945, and the official version that the Americans occupied it on the 28th of March, and the Americans didn't actually occupy it until the 1st of April, and there's no mention of the Brits. And I thought, well, this is very strange.
Yeah.
And then on the way back from this castle, I just happened to visit a war cemetery, and it's all full of dead SS officers and soldiers who died in the last days of the war, picked up from the wayside and tracks and fields. But in the middle of this, there's a Lieutenant Arthur Miller. And I thought first it's a mistake, it's a misprint, it's been misspelt. And then I researched it years later, it just sort of stuck in my mind. Researched it years later. Lieutenant is not an SS rank, and Miller is not a German name. How the hell does this lieutenant, and the lieutenant is spelt in the American way, how the hell does this American lieutenant get buried in a German SS war cemetery? And that's the basis that formed the story. That's what kicked it off.
Very interesting. So that's the story for April
Fool's Day.
April Fool's Day. But going back to your original book, The Quiet Way. Obviously, you have a story, a plot in your mind, and what with as you said, you had a bit of experience with creative writing classes, so you knew how to maybe tell the story in a more visual manner. For instance, bring the characters alive. But how easy was it for you to put your thoughts down on paper? Because, I mean, they say that everyone's got a book within them, but not everyone, there are probably so many millions of stories untold because people don't write their stories. But how do you go from, is it very disciplined? Do you give yourself like a deadline and say, well, I want to write so many words in so many days, or how does it all work out? Where do you begin?
It's a question I've been asked a lot. I'm the most undisciplined writer, I think, going. I write when the mood hits me. I might not do anything for a week or 2 weeks, and then I sit down and think, oh, hang on, that's going to fit in there.
Yeah.
Let's do that. I also find that the original idea for the plot sometimes wanders because the characters take on a life of their own. The characters are composites, people you've met. There's a bit of him, there's a bit of her, there's a bit of somebody else. And how would they react in a particular situation? I don't go in for big descriptions about how they look, what they did beforehand. It's like meeting somebody for the first time.
Yeah.
You see them, you make a judgment. You have your knockout criteria, whether you like them or not, based on previous experience, and it doesn't matter how good they are, what they agree with you on. If they don't meet these knockout criteria, they're gone. You don't like them. And I've tried to create characters, warts and all, because I think sometimes when I watch films on the TV or in the cinema, these people are unreal. They don't have warts. They don't have failings. They don't have inner conflicts, if you like, which is something I like to try and get into a character, because nobody's perfect.
Of course not, no.
And it's nice to get somebody to react in a way that people don't expect. And that's something that develops as the story goes on, because you have I don't write a character and say, okay, this guy is going to be called Joe Bloggs, he's a policeman, he's got size 12 shoes, his mother did ballet classes at such and such, and his sister-in-law's name is Margaret, and so on. I don't do that. The character develops as the book goes along. Right. And I like to leave it to the person's imagination as to how they look, because everybody's got a different idea. If I say to you, I'd like you to imagine a beautiful woman, I'd like you to write down what this beautiful woman looks like, it would probably be a totally different picture to my idea.
Yeah.
Which is why just leave it as a beautiful woman, and don't say, she's got big lips and long blonde hair and high heels and legs that go on forever.
Might not be everyone's beautiful woman.
Well, might not be your picture.
So so let the reader have use their imagination to visualise, if they want to, what that beautiful woman looks like. Interestingly enough, obviously, people write about what they know, or they try to, whatever happens, you sort of draw on experiences, and you've got a railway tanker blowing up in Germany. Yep. Obviously, you know about Germany, and of course, you're talking about England as well. Do you draw on, with all, the amount that you've travelled, you lived in England, lived in Germany, now living in North Cyprus, do you draw on each location and think about how, the setting or how the people in each country would react? Or
Certainly. Certainly.
Has that helped you develop your character?
It has, and also I think the most interesting part, or one of the most interesting parts for me about writing the story, is researching it, and researching The Quiet Way, because it's a faction. it seriously is a faction. 90% of that is probable, if not possible.
Yeah.
And I've had it run by some experts. One of the guys that read it is on the COBRA team in London. Another person who read it is a leading virologist who said, yeah, okay, it's a 1 billion to 1 chance that it's going to happen, but yeah, it could happen, that you get a genetically specific virus that attacks a specific racial group. And if I can just go to the back of that book.
Of course.
There's something that hit me after I'd finished this book, which shook me to the core. And there's a paper called Rebuilding America's Defenses in the 21st Century. And it just states that the art of warfare will be vastly different. Advanced forms of biological warfare that can target specific genotypes may transform biological warfare from a realm of terror to a politically useful tool. Now that is scary.
Yeah.
That is really scary. If you can find something that attacks people that have got particular genetic markers, it takes euthanasia up to a whole new, or genocide even,
Yeah.
to a whole new level.
It certainly does. I mean, it's quite, you know, maybe it is a bit improbable or very futuristic, but something that is actually, that could happen, you know.
Well, I mean, we had the Spanish flu in 1918 that killed God knows how many million people, 20 million, 30 million people. It left certain racial groups untouched because they were immune to it.
Yeah.
They got a head cold. The other people died. So we had a genetically specific virus back in 1918.
So it's something that, you know, that could happen, that is feasible. And so this book, do you think that Living in North Cyprus, I mean, it's a very recent book, you know, as we said, it was published in 2015, and we'll tell people how to get a copy a bit later on. But why was it that the timing was right, or you could, you know, you completed the book here? Did the environment in North Cyprus, you know, help you to complete it and actually finalise the book? I mean, what was the catalyst for actually finishing this book?
Two things. I think one was the peace and quiet and the tranquility of being able to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, see the sun come up, and write.
Yeah, that really helped.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a peaceful atmosphere, such tranquility you don't get in London or Cologne or Berlin.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen. And the second thing was my partner, who came along, gave me tremendous encouragement. I had an editor and proofreader before that, who literally just rubber stamped everything and said, yeah, okay, great, yeah, like it. Okay, there's a comma missing here, there's a full stop missing there. Go for it. And my partner took it up and said, hang on just a minute. No, I don't like that. You can't describe this like this. You have to rewrite that. And I think with her guidance, keeping me absolutely on the story, I weeded out 200 pages of book, which were basically bullshit, which didn't belong there. And that was a great help. And it's been a great help in the sequel to this book, which I'm 2/3 of the way through now.
Yes, we've got a sequel coming out. We'll tell more about that in a while. But so in the end, the story finished. How does one go about here in North Cyprus or anywhere in the world without, you know, a literary agent? How does one go about publishing a book? Because I know this book now is actually available on Amazon.
That's correct.
We obviously have a physical copy as well, but because of, you know, trying to import the book here, it's quite expensive. You know, the book is quite hefty.
Yep.
Even though it's a paperback, you know, 1/2 kilo each book. You know, you've got limits on how many kilograms you can bring into in your luggage. But when it finished, and obviously, you know, you reviewed it, it was proofread, it was all perfect. Then, how do you go about publishing it?
It's a great difficulty. I think every independent author or every newcomer to the field has exactly the same problem. There are various websites that say, oh, what you've got to do is sign up for our agent search machine. You pay them money, they give you a list of agents, what genres they're interested in, what they would like to see, what they don't like to see, submission guidelines, and you follow the submission guidelines. I think I sent off maybe upwards of 150 submissions to various agents worldwide. I had one initial response to one of the submissions where they said, yes, okay, it would make a good TV series if the journey of the heroine and the journey of the hero were amended to do X, Y, and Z. And if we had a couple of bad white guys and a couple of good black guys in it, that would be also advantageous. And I had discussions with them at Gatwick Airport at 7 o'clock one Sunday morning, and they seemed very keen on it, and never heard from them again. Every email that I've sent them saying, well, you know, what's happening has gone unanswered. And the majority of agents don't answer, or they send you a one-liner saying we're not accepting new submissions at the time. So where do you go? The main publishing houses don't accept unsolicited submissions, so you're stuck. Yeah. How do you get your work noticed? And this was why I posted that poll on Birac Radio Facebook page, to try and get people to support independent authors by saying, yes, okay, I'm prepared to read whatever it is, whatever genre, science fiction, thriller, romance, erotica, whatever. I'm prepared to buy it on Amazon, on a Kindle for 99 pence or whatever the price is, and give it a review. But I will pass the review past the author first to see whether he likes it or not. It's his choice whether we put it up or not. And every sale you get puts your book up the rankings, and I'm sure that agencies and publishers are looking at those rankings very closely, looking for new talent.
Right, so correct me if I'm wrong here. What we do is we have your book can become an ebook or it can be on there on Amazon.
Yes.
And what you're saying is that the more people buy your book, obviously, and the more reviews you get, the higher up the ranking you go, and then that dream of maybe getting a good deal with a prominent publisher can become reality. Sure. So really, Amazon is actually supporting independent authors in this way by allowing you to upload your book onto their site,
whether
it's been accepted by any other publisher.
It's a totally free of charge service. I mean, they have a subsidiary company called CreateSpace, which you can log on to. You can upload your Word document. They will guide you through the formatting of it. They will tell you where you've gone wrong, what they can accept, what they can't accept. You can do anything, pictures, black and white, colour, the whole works, whatever you want to write about. If you want to do a cookbook with colour photos, do it. You just have to upload the photos and upload the text. And then you get an ISBN number for it and a barcode for it, and you set your price according to the number of pages that it's got or whatever. And that's the basis of it.
Very, very easy. So about this poll you were saying.
Yes.
Because obviously, there must be loads of writers out there or loads of people who think they've got a great book, send off these, these agents, literary agents must get, hundreds of mails. I know you've sent mails off and, or we're not accepting any new material at the moment, or, blah, 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 all the normal stuff. But, your poll was actually looking at how many people are reviewing, or what were the reviews are saying about certain books. And I mean, tell us a bit about what you were researching, what your poll was actually showing.
What the poll is actually showing is, if you go onto Facebook and onto some of these book groups, there are dozens, literally dozens of people every day slapping a picture of their book cover saying, please buy and review my book, I'll buy and review your book. PM me immediately and I will answer. They never answer. And this post comes up repetitively 3, 4 times, 5 times a month, and every time you see the same post, and it gets boring. People just block it. They say, not interested, not interested, not interested. I think on that basis, I managed to contact 4 people, 3 in the States, 1 in New Zealand, who were willing to say, okay, I'll buy your book, you buy mine, and we'll do a review on it. And I got reviews. In the meantime, I've now got, I think, 9 reviews on Kindle, all 5-star. for The Quiet Way. I've got a 5-star review for the print book on Amazon, but it's not enough to get you up the rankings, to get you noticed. So the idea of this poll that I did was to say, okay, we've got loads of people who've got what they call books. We've got loads of people who are avid readers and lots of people who profess to be willing to do a review for a review. And I don't think if they did 99 pence a month to buy one book and review it would hurt. And some of these readers groups have got like 17,000 people in them.
Yeah.
So if 17,000 books get sold in a month, not necessarily one title, but out of this book group, then a lot of people are going to shoot up the rankings and get noticed.
Yeah.
And that was the idea behind this. And what I found is that we've got an awful lot of people writing books in genres that an awful lot of people don't want to read, which is very sad.
It is very sad. One thing that you pointed out before the interview started was that I think before certain changes in the regulations or rules of Amazon, people would pretend to read the book, write reviews. Like you could get a friend to say, right, you just write a, write a review. But then the Amazon realised that actually that person actually hadn't purchased the book even.
Yeah.
So in a way, they are now blocking those sorts of
false reviews, which I think is a good idea.
False reviews, which is quite a credible thing to do. But if you are seen to have purchased that book, then you are allowed to then make a review later on. They can, that review can stay there, as long as obviously the author agrees with the review.
Sometimes you don't even see the review. I mean, I've had Kindle reviews placed on there that I haven't seen before they've gone on. I mean, they're bought by strangers. They don't know me from Adam, and they've bought the book, read it, enjoyed it, and said, well, unputdownable. Thrill a minute, that kind of thing, which is great. It's a big ego boost.
The good thing about this online business is that people here in North Cyprus can support what's going on because, as you say, spend 99p or however much it costs on in Amazon for that book, do a review, and you're supporting the author. So there's no excuse like, I can't get the book physically, because unfortunately we haven't got the book here.
No.
The quiet way, so you can't go into a bookshop here and get the book and buy the book and support that way, but you can go online. Is it available on Kindle as well then?
It's on Kindle as well, yes.
So you can, in the comfort of your own home, on your Kindle, read this book. How would you describe the genre? I mean, we know roughly that it's a bit of a thriller in a way.
It's a political, political terrorism-based police procedural thing.
It's quite a new sort of genre, I think, now. All this sort of like political, politics and terrorism and, technology is quite in the forefront now, isn't it, I suppose? I mean, especially, unfortunately, terrorism, around the world and I'm not going to go into politics now, but it's something that's in the forefront of everyone's mind. You can't read a newspaper without hearing about some terrorism attack somewhere in the world. So this is obviously, a great genre to be in at the moment because it's quite an up and rising genre. You said that you got a second book, a follow-up to this now.
Yes, a sequel.
So was that intentional? Did you always think that you were going to write a follow-up to this, or did it all come into your mind afterwards?
A lot of the people that read the first one said, well, these characters have got to go on.
Really?
Yeah.
It's sort of, the way the characters, so the characters will come on, will continue. It's like a series of characters. The main character, let's say you're the main protagonist.
And it's also kind of interlinked, because the question I asked myself when I put that book to bed was, this is terrorism. It's very easy to put a stamp on it and say that this is a bunch of radical whatevers. Whether you say it's radical Islamists or radical evangelists or whatever, I think both are frightening. I mean, radical Jehovah's Witnesses banging on your door is scary enough.
Yeah.
But where does this terrorism actually come from? And the big question I keep asking myself, which I'm asking in the sequel, is who benefits from it? And if you ask that question often enough, you come up with some very, very scary answers. Some very scary answers. So
the sequel is two-thirds of the way
Two-thirds of the way through. It's about 90,000 words now, which is probably 300 and something pages.
Right.
Coming to an end shortly.
Are you going to end it there, do you think, when you finish this?
I don't know. I mean, the people that are the main characters could get another case.
I mean, the reason why I'm asking, I'm a big fan of Dan Brown, for instance. Yeah. And, obviously he's got his, main character, and it's a different setting or a different situation that he's in. Obviously he's got a lot of history, lots of imagery, lots of things put together to make the story. But maybe, as you said, I haven't read unfortunately I haven't read the book. You've given me the book right now, literally minutes before the interview. So I'm looking forward to finding out who these characters are. But it could be a series of books with these characters still continuing in a different
you've also
scenario.
got the opportunity of saying, well, okay, we'll do a prequel. We'll do the main character before he got to 2010.
Yeah.
In another case,
right.
that he made him famous, that gave him the job that he got. There's all sorts of options like that.
Lots of opportunities to take the book where you want to go.
Fantasy's got no boundaries.
No. This, we briefly talked about April Fool's Day, and this is still, obviously you're getting this all done up for your paperback. Is this online as well now at the moment?
It is online, or no, hang on, let me put it like this. It will be online probably by the end of May as a finished book. As I say, we're doing the final formatting now. There are one or two glitches in the formatting which have caused a problem, and those are being sorted. And I think at the end of the month, that thing will be online as a paperback and as a Kindle.
A Kindle as well. Out of interest, because you're based here in North Cyprus now. With these books, the physical books, did you go to the UK to speak with the printers yourself, or
no?
Amazon
print on demand.
Right. Okay.
So they don't even hold stock. You order it, and 2 days later it's printed and it's delivered.
This means, though, that obviously money comes out of your pocket to print this book, in a way, isn't it? I mean, do you have to have is there a minimum number you have to order to be
No.
print? You could do 10, or you could do 100, or
You can do
1,000.
one. You can do one. Basically, the breakdown is that they say, okay, you've got your book online now. This is a 400-pager. They say the minimum print cost for this book is X pounds. If you want to earn any money on it, the minimum selling price of it is Y pounds.
Yeah.
And you say, okay, I'm willing to accept the minimum royalty on it to get the cheapest price. Or you say, I'm going to accept no royalty on it, just did it for fun. Or you say, I'm going to accept a huge royalty, and instead of taking the minimum price of, I don't know, £10, I'm going to sell it for £100, which is wishful thinking.
So, I mean, once you know where to go and what to do, it's quite, logical, but quite easy to, to have your book, as long as you've got the story in there, that's readable. What's the response been like for the people who've read the book, who've actually, taken the trouble to really read the book and give you a good review?
I get probably 10 emails a week saying, when's the next one?
Really?
Yeah.
Amazing.
And I've sold less than 200 copies.
So a pretty good review then.
Yeah.
Got a good star rating in Amazon. And this is from people who don't necessarily know you.
No.
They just found your book, downloaded it, read it.
Well, I got one guy in New Zealand who read it, and he's on to me literally twice a month saying, well, I'm chomping at the bit, I want the next one.
So, and the next one's coming out, so he's going to be very happy that the next one's going to be released soon. Isn't it amazing, though, that after all those years, I mean, you're going back to the first time you wrote something and then you trashed it, and now in 2015 you released your first book. Now you've got a third book. I mean, in the space of a year, let's say, or a year and a half or 2 years, you've got 3 books out. I mean, could this be like the spur for you to continue writing prolifically?
Yeah, well, I don't know whether it's prolific, because the writing process, the creative process is triggered by events. You see something, it sits in the back of your mind. A lot of people say, oh, take a notebook, write your things down that you see every day. I can't be bothered. I see something during the course of the day, and if I can remember it the next day, then it was memorable. If I can't remember it, it's not worth putting in a book.
Yeah.
It's not worth writing down even.
Right, yeah.
And we all meet people during the course of our lives that are interesting. For whatever reason, positively or negatively, they're interesting. And it's a fascinating little experiment or academic exercise, if you like, to sit there or lie there just before you go to sleep at night, thinking, well, hang on, this person, what would they react, or how would they react if such and such happened to them? And already you've got the beginning of a story.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a real person anymore. It's just a composite.
Yeah.
And that's...
I suppose after the success of your books now, do you get people coming up to you and say, well, I've written something, could you read it for us? I mean, have you been approached by the people who want to...
Yes, I think, again, this is something that Facebook has brought to the fore. There are umpteen forums where people are saying, I've written a book, if you do a review, buy my book and do a review, then I'll buy your book and do a review.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it never happens because there are just so many of them out there, which was why I did this poll, to try and latch or connect readers with writers.
Right.
People who want to read a particular genre, connected with a writer of a particular genre, and build up maybe a personal relationship between the two.
Yes.
As I said before, the problem is that there are an awful lot of authors out there writing genres or writing books that nobody wants to read. There is also, even in published books, I think a serious lack of quality. I won't go into names, but there are some books out there that if you took the swear words out, they'd be a short story.
Yeah.
There are some books out there that, I don't know, 50 Shades of Grey comes to mind. If Mr. Steele had that many thumbs, he'd either be an alien or a mutant. And yet, it gets past the publishers and the hype, the media.
That's the, I mean, now that you mentioned, something like 50 Shades of Grey, which, became a massive phenomenon because, the fact that it touched on a subject maybe that was quite unusual. I mean, the ladies out there went crazy over the main guy, and of course it became a film. I suppose in a way, I mean, like at the moment, I can see a trend in like the trilogies. I mean, we had the Hunger Games, which was, and when I look at the story of the Hunger Games, which I read all 3 books, and I thought it was very, very well written. But at the end of the day, it's something that, it's not really, it could be written. It could be written by anyone, well written by the author, but it's just sort of like, it's just, maybe it's lack or, just getting recognised or going, as you say, getting past the publishers
it's getting past the first hurdle.
Yeah.
And getting it noticed, getting it in people's faces. And I think that is the difficulty that a lot of, or every independent author faces. Mm-hmm. There are an awful lot of scams out there. There are an awful lot of vanity publishers who say, oh, we'll publish your book, pay us £4,000. Well, they publish it exactly the same as that, which costs you nothing.
Yeah.
But you get no distribution. You get people who say, well, we'll do the marketing for your book for a mere $500. They post it on a few websites for you.
That's it.
And that's it, end of story. So there are an awful lot of pitfalls for the upcoming author, which don't get them any further, just cost them money.
So what could we do, before we wind down the interview now, before we summarise everything, what could we do? I mean, you put that poll out there now on Facebook and you shared it on our Brighton National Radio page. So if anyone wants to see more about what Robin has posted, go onto our Brighton National Radio page or look at Robin's personal Facebook page. That's Robin Melhuish. Robin, what can we do out here now in North Cyprus, or anyone who's watching this, maybe...
Encourage people to take the poll, quite simply.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes 2 minutes, or not even that, to fill out. It's just literally ticking boxes, multiple choice. What do I like reading? Do I have a book myself? If I've got a book myself, where can I get it? Put the link in. Am I prepared to do a review for somebody else? Yes or no, simple answer. If the answer is yes, please contact me at end of story. And what I will try to do then is to match people with particular interests with particular authors and say, okay, Jan, you say you're interested in fantasy, science fiction, the Hunger Games, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I've got 5 books here in that category. Have a look at these.
Yeah.
If you want to buy one and review it, fine. If you don't, also fine. But at least we've put it in the frame.
Yes. So you're matching people reading preferences to the authors who write in that genre.
Correct.
Which
Who they might not come across in the normal course of events because
Yeah.
they're not on the bookshelf.
So that's the problem, as you say. I mean, you know, this book that you've given me now very kindly, you know, if I wanted to read it but I wasn't online, I couldn't read it. So you've got to be, as you say, marketing is quite an important thing here.
You could read it if you knew it existed.
Yeah, if you knew. So you're actually helping to say a book exists like this.
Yes.
Take the time to read it. Which is very, very good. It's a shame that we don't have your books on the bookshelves here in North Cyprus one day, but I know that, you know, online is very popular and people are now reading Kindles more and more, and, you know, so there's no excuse not to read any book by Robin Melhuish. But, you know, I think it's amazing that you've come this far in such a short space of time since your first book was, you know, published. Now you've got, you know, a 3rd book in mind and you've got more out there. How can people contact you? Is it via Amazon? Is it via your Facebook page?
There's a link on Amazon, an author's link on Amazon. There is also my Facebook page. The Quiet Way also has its own Facebook page. So if people can't remember my name or spell it, which is quite difficult sometimes,
Yes.
The Quiet Way on Facebook. Get on there first off, and I would guarantee to come back to everybody.
Okay, just so that you can recognise the cover of the book when you browse. It's a very, very striking book, The Quiet Way. And Robin's surname is Melhuish, and it's Melhuish, just so that you know. And I thank you for giving me a copy of your book. I'm looking forward to reading this and finding out more about your story and your protagonists and how they're going to develop in future books as well. And I thank you for coming in today from Karashaka.
My pleasure.
Robin. Good luck with all the work you're doing. It looks like you've got a busy time ahead of you, writing your books, maybe reviewing books, polling people, making sure that people out there are writing, reading the books they want to read. But thanks a lot for bringing everyone together in the world of literacy, because it's very, very important, and it's always nice to have a good book to read every now and then, in your quiet times. But thank you for all the efforts that you're doing here in North Cyprus as well.
Thank you.
And with that, we've come to the end of my interview with Robin Melhuish, and a big thank you, as I said, to Robin for coming in today. He's got The Quiet Way, we've got April Fool's Day, we've got another book coming out following a sequel to The Quiet Way. Who knows where this will take Robin on his journey in the world of literature, but hopefully it will take him far. But if you want to find out more, just go onto Facebook or to Amazon, and the rest is just, a button or two away at your fingertips. With that, we come to the end of the programme, wishing you all a very safe and pleasant week. Until the next time we meet on A Cup of Conversation, I was your host, John Guzzi. Take care. Goodbye.